top of these. I don't know.
I know. All right.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. We are here for the Wednesday, August 13th, 2025 Marion County Board of Commissioners Board Session. It's 9 a.m. We're in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. I almost said introductions because I feel like that's all we do. So please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I suppose it wouldn't hurt if we introduced ourselves once in a while. All right, we have one individual signed up for public comment. David, if you'd come over here to the right table, please.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm talking about the foster care in Marion County. Some services is going to be cut because the president says he's going to cut some programs back for foster care. So I was wondering if we can send a letter to the White House and ask them to keep the programs going in for Marion County for funding for 2006, 2007, 2008, funding for a 3-year term for the Marion County for funding for the legislature and the county funding for it. All the foster homes in Marion County services after 5 o'clock. Please do that for me. Really appreciate it.
All right, thanks for being here, David. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Weekend. Huh?
Thanks. I said you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
David.
Commissioner Cameron, would you read the consent agenda, please?
Oh, I guess it's flying. It's coming back to me this time, huh? All right.
it is.
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to move the consent calendar. First item under Board of Commissioners, OLCC applications, recommended approval to LL Fresh Noodle LLC, DBA as Noodle Zone, Salem, Oregon, Rava Vineyard, Silverton, Oregon. Second item, Board Committee appointment under Health Insurance Study Committee, known as HISC, approve an order appointing Sherry Hickam as a management representative to the Marion County Health Insurance Study Committee. Under Community Services, approve the standard professional services contract with Dreyer Construction Management Consulting LLC in not to exceed $204,995 to provide owner's representative services for the Detroit Marina Excavation and Resiliency Project retroactive to July 22nd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. Under Health and Human Services, approve an order to approve the revised bylaws for the Marion County Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee. Also under Health and Human Services, approve an order to approve the revised bylaws for the Marion County Mental Health Advisory Committee. Under Health and Human Services, approve amendment number 2 to the contract for services with Bridgeway Community Health to add $21,753.60 for a new not to exceed grand total of $108,767.60 for dual credentialed co-occurring counselors to provide services for drug and alcohol treatment and mental health to support participants in specialty court program through December 31st, 2025. Also, under Health and Human Services, approve amendment number 3 to the contract for services with Gibraltar Medical Staffing, LLC to add $500,000 for the new not to exceed grand total of $4,250,000 to continue provide qualified medical staffing personnel for mental health counseling and medication management through January 31st, 2028. Under Public Works, approve the engineering and related services contract with Shannon and Wilson, Inc. in the not to exceed amount of $350,000 to provide an on-call geotechnical engineering and related services for landslides and other naturally occurring events that damage or threaten to damage the county's transportation infrastructure through July 31st, 2027. Also under Public Works, approve an incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation to provide state funding in the amount of $301,977 for pedestrian facility upgrades at the intersection of Brown Road and Arizona Avenue for the Safe Routes to School Scott Elementary project through August 6, 2030. Also under Public Works, approve an order to remove Stephen Staton as a member of the Marion County Parks Commission. And under Public Works, approve an order to approve the revised bylaws for the Marion County Parks Commission. And finally, under the Sheriff's Office, approve the incoming funds challenge cost share agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture for service in the amount of not to exceed amount of $150,000 to provide law enforcement services for the purchase of the 2 reader board signs for use within the Willamette National Forest through July 1st, 2028.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our first item of action. John is going to come talk to us about whether or not to consider or accept or deny an appeal for the hearings officer's decision denying zone change case number 25002 Creative Electric LLC.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is John Speckman with Marion County Public Works. For the record, I'm coming to ask you to consider accepting this appeal of hearings officer decision denying zone change 25002 for Creative Electric LLC. Zone change 25002 is for a zone change from UT5 urban transition to CG commercial general on a 5.02 acre parcel located in the 900 block of South Pacific Highway 99 East, Woodburn. The property is within the urban growth boundary of Woodburn. On May 15, 2025, the hearings officer held a hearing with an open record and issued a decision on July 8, 2025, denying the request. Applicants appealed the hearings officer's decision. The applicants argue that the 2015 City of Woodburn and Marion County Urban Growth Coordination Agreement should not be considered as approval criteria. Staff recommends the board accept the appeal in order that it may consider providing policy direction on this agreement. The staff recommended motion is therefore to accept the appeal of the hearing officer's decision denying zone change 25002 Creative Electric LLC, but other motion options for consideration are 1, to deny the appeal and uphold the hearings officer's decision, or 2, to remand the matter back to the hearings officer.
Thanks, John. Commissioners, do you have any questions? I support accepting the appeal. Commissioner Cameron?
No, I think that's staff's recommendation.
Yep.
When I read it. Yep.
Great. Commissioner Willis?
All right, Madam Chair, I move that we accept the appeal of the hearings officer's decision denying zone change case number 25-002 Creative Electric LLC.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, Ryan, you're going to come forward and talk to us about Section 106 of a memorandum of understanding between the United States Federal Highway Administration, the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, and the Oregon Department of Transportation of Marion County. Lucky us.
Good morning. For the record, Ryan Cruther, Marion County Public Works. And as you said, I'm here to talk about our Scotts Mills Butte Creek Bridge agreement between Federal Highways, Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, and the Oregon Department of Transportation and Marion County. So this bridge is located in Scotts Mills on the border between Marion and Clackamas County. You can see here on the map. All right, our existing structure is a 1920s steel pony truss bridge that was built in 1925. It actually originally was built on Highway 99 in Aurora and was moved to our site in 1951.
Wow.
So it's already had 2 locations. During the project development, it was determined that it's eligible for the National Registry of Historic Places. But due to its poor condition and alignment, we just can't rehabilitate this bridge in place and maintain that historic nature. We need to upgrade it structurally. It needs to be widened, and there's a number of other issues that would come with trying to rehabilitate this bridge. Because it's eligible for the historic registry, we need to enter into an agreement with the parties that we mentioned in order to replace this bridge. Part of that is because we're receiving federal funding, so this is a federal grant. And so with that funding, we need to do some of these small measures. Those include an interpretive kiosk. This is an example of what this may look like. I included some pictures of what they may look like. Keep in mind these are other projects and ours may look slightly different. So you can see that interpretive kiosk. We also have to install stamped concrete on the new bridge depicting the existing bridge. Obviously, it won't look quite like this, but this is what stamped concrete looks like, and so we'll include that in our construction documents. There will be a bronze plaque attached to the new bridge with information on the existing bridge. And then also we've agreed to construct an Art Deco style rail on the new bridge. So you can see here in this depiction what that will look like. This is our current concept. One of the nice things that comes with this is that this is in the middle of Scotts Mills, and typically with our bridges we install more of a rural, just concrete railing that you can't see through. One of the things we heard in public meetings was they wanted to be able to see the water as they drove across the bridge. So with this, you'll be able to see through the railing. It's not one solid piece of concrete. It adds some architectural elements to the bridge, which really is helpful for a bridge that's located in the center of town. And then finally, ODOT's going to host a story map, which is more or less just a website with information on the existing bridge, the history, so that if people are interested. And after going to some public meetings in Scotts Mills, I will say there are definitely people who are very interested in the history of this bridge. That will be put on their website for folks to look at. This is a federal grant. These mitigation measures we anticipate costing around $50,000. With our current estimate, that fits within our grant award. So we're looking at incorporating this. They are eligible with that grant, and so it won't change the project budget. With that, do you have any questions?
I asked this question before, but I forget the answer. I'm not the biggest fan of Art Deco. The old bridge wasn't Art Deco. This is kind of an art question. Who decided that Art Deco was the way to go on the design art elements of this bridge?
So it was a negotiation between our bridge engineer and the State Historic Preservation Office and our environmental
So the state wanted Art
folks.
Deco.
It comes down to, this is a bridge rail that has been used a number of times recently, so there is precedent, there's details for it. We looked into what we could build that looked like a steel pony truss and couldn't make anything feasibly work within our project budget and that would work with this bridge. And so this was the middle ground that everyone landed on, with having some architectural elements. Unfortunately, we looked at what we could do that was more reminiscent of the original bridge, but couldn't find a feasible solution.
Okay. How much was the additional cost for the,
About $50,000.
no. For the delta between, you said the pony truss wasn't economically feasible, or doing a pony truss style bridge wasn't economically feasible?
I would have to go to my bridge engineer. To do that, we would have to potentially get away from concrete or install some kind of a steel railing on top. We did look at a number of different options that would put something more like that in place, but there was nothing that was selected. I don't have those numbers, though.
Okay, I realize that I'm kind of late to the game here. I should have asked this more pointed in our management update when this came up. In the future, can you make sure that the board is ready on this stuff? So if there's a cost difference when it comes to design or art sort of stuff, like ultimately we're going to be responsible for how the community feels about how something looks. So I don't think that's an engineering call. I realize that that's kind of how this went down, was the engineers were like, hey, we have this budget. What kind of art fits in this budget? I just want to make sure that we're ready on that in the future.
Yes, we will definitely do that in the future.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cameron?
I want to make sure, was former Commissioner Brentano at any of those meetings to approve the design? I mean, this is the Brentano Bridge, right? It doesn't say that on the plaque.
Turns out we're gonna sanction that ourselves through a board order and stick it on this bridge when it's done.
All right.
A giant ceremony, and I'll bring the shovel he left me when I took office.
All right. All right, Madam Chair, I move approve of the Section 106 Memorandum of Agreement between the United States Federal Highway Administration, the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, the Oregon Department of Transportation, and Marion County that documents and plans and obligations regarding the mitigation strategy for the Scotts Mills Road Butte Creek Bridge Replacement Project.
I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just the only thing is in the future when, and this was way before us, somebody was probably trying to save money and get an old bridge and move it in, and look what it's costing us at the end of the life of that bridge, because we preserved something in the past. It's interesting that you get penalized when you do preservation, so for future bridges. Anyway, just my comment.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, Brian May is going to come forward to talk about the revised bylaws for the Marion County Materials Management Advisory Council. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Brian May, Environmental Services Division Manager, and as mentioned, here to talk about our Advisory Council bylaws. So a little background, Marion County established the Solid Waste Management Advisory Council in 1989, so it's been in place for a number of years. The purpose of the council was to provide input to the board regarding our integrated solid waste system and how it performed and suggestions. We've experienced a lot of change over the last 30 plus years, almost 40 years. Council's been involved in many different iterations of our solid waste management plan. They've provided input on many waste reduction programs and looked at exploring ways to increase our recovery rate in Marion County. So that kind of brings us to where we're at today with some of the most recent changes. DEQ has updated what they call the Opportunity to Recycle Act, which kind of governs a lot of our recycling in the state with what is now the Recycling Modernization Act. So again, OTR, RMA, all kinds of acronyms to be thrown around here, but the main purpose is to make recycling easier to understand, kind of a statewide approach, minimize environmental and community impact, and then also improve access to recycling, just to make it easier for all of us across the state, not just in Marion County. So these changes have preempted kind of the re-evaluation of our advisory council as to how should we be kind of keeping up with what's going on. So as part of that, we wanted to better align with the new integrated approach to solid waste and involve more communities in these decisions and processes. Our current council, SWAMAC, leaned a little more to being more Salem-centric. Over time, it just kind of ended up that way with how it was made up and how the memberships evaluated things and evaluated the situations. The changes before you, first of all, is a name change from SWAMAC to the Materials Management Advisory Council, again, to look at that holistic approach of dealing with waste as commodities more than waste materials, so that we can hopefully improve and increase that recovery number. The other piece of that is, again, as I mentioned, kind of the shift in our membership from what we had was comprised of 8 members of the public and another 8 members kind of industries, businesses, and community organizations. The new organization moves from 16 members to 16 voting members and 3 non-voting members, with a focus around, like I mentioned, the Opportunity to Recycle Act. There's a lot of requirements in our communities with this for populations of over 4,000. So we wanted to get those people at the table and engaged in these conversations to make sure that they had a voice in what we were doing and how we were implementing these programs. So that's the main focus. We were able to structure the group so that there are 9 members from 8 city jurisdictions. So pretty excited about that opportunity to get that kind of representation at the table. What we have in amendments, that's the main body of what the changes in the SWAMAC structure as far as bylaws to the new MAC. Not a lot of other pieces. We streamlined the application process. We had a kind of very rudimentary 2 meeting attendance, a nomination committee, yada, 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 before we could ever get to the board for an approval. We've kind of streamlined that to you apply, board approves you, and we'll get you placed on council to make that a much easier and quicker process. So one thing, I'm excited to move this forward, definitely in this reincarnation, in a sense, of our advisory council, and excited for the future. So,
Thanks, Brian. Commissioners, do you have any comments?
Nope.
Commissioner Cameron?
No, we're going to do another one. I'll maybe some comments on that.
Okay,
after
great.
this.
Commissioner Willis, would you make a motion? It's the top of the page. you're looking at.
15.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we approve in order to accept the revised bylaws for the Marion County Materials Management Advisory Council.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. All right, now we're going to learn about the board appointments for this council just discussed.
yes, so part two. As I mentioned, we're going to have 19 members totally that'll now make up the Materials Management Advisory Council, MMAC. What we're bringing forward today is 15 applicants, 15 of the 19. We still have 4 positions to fill. 3 of those are voting positions. One would represent the city of Silverton, and from what I understand, that is in process. We already have the application coming. We'll put that through. It was just a late addition. We're also going to be looking for citizens positions. We want a rural representation and an urban representation, again, to understand all the ins and outs of what people experience throughout the county, not just here in our main populace. And then the last, non-voting position is a community organization. I mean, that can be anything from your neighborhood group to whatever that else is, just another opportunity to bring more input into the council. So before you, like I said, we have 15 members, potential members for you to consider. Representation from City of Kaiser, City of Salem, City of Woodburn, Almsville, Staten, our smaller incorporated populations of less than 4,000 with Aurora, Jefferson. We then have our Marion County business representation with food service and grocery industry, and then also the Home Builders Association. Non-voting membership coming forward is a materials management industry. This would be our kind of our haulers association representation. The recycling industry, so Garden Services. And then, as I mentioned, we still have the open community organization position.
Okay, so is Commissioner Cameron's position a
Oh.
voting position or no?
Yes, sorry, I failed to mention.
No, it's
one
fine.
of
I
the-
just was unclear.
This is the position I'm probably most concerned about, being a troublemaker in our group.
Yeah.
So sorry,
That's why we shortened
overlooked that
his
one.
ability to be there for just 6 months to see how he does.
This whole reorganization is a result of some brainstorm I had after Commissioner Willis sent me over to Swamak for a year, and I realized we needed to do some things different.
The
now.
board sent you to Swamak.
The what?
The board.
The board. Well,
Sent you to Swamak.
I didn't.
Unanimously agreed.
I didn't
Yeah.
get too much pushback from myself, did I?
No, you didn't.
Yeah. So, Brian, thank you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
And I really want to say publicly to those that have put their names on this list, to say thank you. And I met with a Salem City Councilor yesterday afternoon, who's not on this list, but was really appreciative about the partnership that we're bringing people in to work together on these types of projects, so that we're aligned, because especially as we know, if you're in East Salem, you're on one side of the street, the other side of the street, you're in the city limits. And so that there's consistency in how we're flowing in our big areas, but also out in the rural areas to have some standard. And I think of, this is going to be really good from an education, some of the struggles that they may be having in implementing these things. We had a conversation yesterday about how are we going to educate and do the things that we're going to be required to do. And so those are all going to be positive opportunities to get some people on board moving the same direction. And if we can improve our recovery rates and be number one and pass those cheaters, pass the other, what is it, Lane County that's number one all the time? That would be a real good thing for us to put a feather in our cap and have a real good system again. So, Brian, I want to thank you for all the work. Corey's not here, but he's probably watching this. and Tony,
He
who's
just didn't
been,
want to wear a tie.
yeah,
Correct.
who's been working on putting this together. And thank you, because once we do this, we'll have our first official meeting today at 12 o'clock. That's why I got to leave here by 11:30 today. So real excited about it. And Brian, thank you for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
I have two things. One, can you make sure you get a picture of the group today?
Yes,
Thanks,
most
and give it
definitely.
to John so he can do a press release on it. And the
Yep.
second thing is you know, there's always an opportunity to really think through the conversations we have upstairs. And maybe you've told us before, and I just don't recall, but in the first few months, the goal is to have a conversation with these community partners and build out the path forward.
Correct.
Are you going to set them up with, I know that you're going to give them a big presentation, all that. What I'm looking for is a request of this body to think differently
Okay.
and to actually create real, digestible actions that members of this community across the county can facilitate themselves or lean in to partner. So in the 5 years I've been in commissioner, we've talked about this a lot, and I've mentioned several times the 3 R's, which I learned very comprehensively in second grade. I could tell you the color of the paper on the box when we had to go through this journey for all of second grade. I want the group to think about that in a way we're investing in our kids through our schools for programming that they can really own and take from school to home and really become a community invested solution. Yesterday I talked about marketing and what kind of contracts and consultants we could bring on, and all that's still interesting to me. I'm curious about that. But really, I want to be able to have real community ownership in this new path forward for solid waste amongst our community. I just think we leave people out of the discussion, and the people that want to be in this discussion are busy humans, and so I want people to be excited about it. And I think you have some pretty creative folks on here. Jordan, excuse me, Jordan Ork comes to mind as a counselor from Staten. She has young children. I think she'd be excited from the perspective that I'm delivering of how to kind of create some programming around it.
Yep.
So I know that you have all these big goals, and I'm excited for them to come to fruition, but I really want to see in a few months like real options for us to choose to invest in when the funds for this new program start moving into the county with our partners, and we're not just sitting on it because we can't, help ourselves.
Yep. No, and I want to echo that too. I mean, the fun of bringing this group together is we're going to get to open their eyes, right?
Yeah.
The majority of the people today know that they can push a cart out to the curb and everything magically disappears. We can educate the group on what happens to get that cart to a curb with the essentials and then where it goes from there. So we can get that input of how we structure, how do we move this forward to increase our recovery rate and, to Commissioner's point, do better again and be that number one in the state and lead that charge first and have people copying our programs again like it used to be. So.
Good.
Yeah, I think, Commissioner, you're on the right track, because these people are connected in their communities
Right.
already. Jordan, right, and passionate about certain things, and we didn't force anybody here. We asked we asked them to pick somebody who wanted to be here. So I think there will be that type of of programs that come out of this, and like we say about counties, if you've seen one county, you've seen one county, right? If you've seen one city, they're going to have different ways they're going to go about it, but the end goal is the same. But how do they go about it? And Jordan having young kids, and then you take the mayor from Woodburn, who's experienced in the industry, and he's got some ideas that will be different in how they implement things in Woodburn, which is a little bigger city than the suburb of Solemnity, a little bigger city than Staten. Love to do that.
Oh, geez.
So I'm excited. I'm excited about what will come out of this, and then behind this, all the things that we're working on to move things from where they were a year ago to where they could be in the future. So that's exciting time. Yeah.
I'm actually really excited for this project.
Good.
Money-
Even though he's doing all the work, I'm going to help him move us forward as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, money grows on trees, and
Only until we harvest them.
and garbage has money,
Yeah, there
right?
you go.
Is money. So we want to continue to educate our kids that way too. So
Yeah, agreed.
and write a book. Money does grow on trees.
It does. Only thing I would add is I am frustrated with some of the people who have been criticizing Marion County's system in the past, and some of the actions the state has done has made it harder to run our system. So I support this effort. I think it's a good effort, and also this is not a reflection that Marion County system is anything other than very high quality. It has been a very high quality for multiple years. So
I think, Commissioner, what you're going to see come out of this is a deep understanding and education of many members who can come and join us to discuss Senator Patterson's awful legislation that killed our waste energy facility. I'll just say it. I think they're so uninformed that we didn't have a good backing to be able to show up and represent how our system was the best in the state. And now they've crippled not just our county, but others.
Well,
And this,
I agree with you on a lot of things. I actually think in our community, lots of people agree with us. The polling shows
Agreed.
that most people backed us.
Yeah.
Is that Senator Patterson allied herself with a bunch of Portland politicians to jam something down our throats here that the majority of our citizens don't agree with.
yes. And maybe these folks can show up and really advocate for us going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Cameron, would you make a motion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I don't know that I have to read all their names.
I think you should.
I'm going to just make a motion to approve an order appointing the members that are listed below to the Marion County Materials Management Advisory Council with terms ending July 31st, 2029.
With the exception of yourself, whose term ends December 31st, 2025.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get off on
No,
2025.
we'll reappoint you in December, but
Yeah, okay.
you accept my
Which-
amendment?
We don't have a second yet.
I'm still making sure that that was a legal motion.
As he leaned over, I knew exactly what he was going to say.
I think it's sufficient. The names are all reflected on the agenda. The motion moves the names on the agenda with the modification of Commissioner Cameron. So I think that's legally sufficient.
Okay, then I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, there is. And Brian, one of the things we may want to look at is quickly adjusting these terms so that everybody doesn't expire at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just noticed that.
Great suggestion.
Okay.
All those
All
in
right.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you so much for your work on this, both of you.
Do I need to declare a conflict of interest that I just appointed myself to a committee?
You're not getting paid, are you?
No.
More
but-
than you get paid now, just to be clear.
But there's money in garbage, that's all I'm going to say.
So long as you're not getting any of it.
Yeah.
Then-
Thank you very much.
The garbage or the money?
Oh, God, okay. All right, we have probably a very long morning next ahead of us, so let's carry on. I'm going to pause the Board of Commissioners meeting and open a public hearing to consider conditional use comprehensive plan amendment case number 24-038 TLM Holdings LLC. And I have a whole bunch of things to read, so listen carefully. The board has had the opportunity to review the documents contained in the record and has had no ex parte communications regarding this matter unless specifically disclosed. If there are any objections to notice, jurisdiction, or conflicts of interest, the parties can raise them during testimony. Planning staff will list the applicable criteria for the application. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards the applicable criteria. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence may preclude appeal on that issue. Furthermore, under county code, we have specific time limits for parties to present. The staff opening presentation will be approximately 10 minutes. The applicant or representative will have 15 minutes. Proponents individually will have 3 minutes each. The opponents individually will have 3 minutes each. Neutral comments individually 3 minutes. There will be a 3 to 5 minute rebuttal for the applicant, and then we will move into the staff ending summary and deliberation by the Board of Commissioners. That a time will be established by myself. And we will be moving into deliberation by 11:15 this morning because we have to get out of here for the rest of our day. Brenda, could you please bring me the list? There's less folks here than I expected, which is great. So, John, Is that sufficient, Steve? Great. John, please carry on.
Good morning, Commissioners. At the onset, I want to just point out that we did receive 2 comments yesterday, kind of late in the day, so I brought physical copies. They were provided to all of you and legal counsel prior to this hearing beginning, and I have more copies here if anybody else would like them. The applicant also received copies late last night.
John, just for clarification, the Wilsonville letter from the
Yes.
city, is there difference in the one that was in the 3 boxes that we received originally from what was submitted before versus yesterday?
Substantially the same, as far
Okay.
as I can tell.
Thank you. I mean, they oppose it. We heard that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cameron?
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you, Madam Chair, clarify that you sent us an email late last night and said there was 2 that came in because of an issue. They were stamped correctly. Are these those 2 that I looked at last night?
Yes, 7 pages from 1,000 Friends of Oregon and the 2 pages from Wilsonville.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right.
All right. For the record, this is John Speckman with Marion County Planning, 5155 Silverton Road Northeast. The item before you today is an application for a conditional use permit to expand the Aurora Airport boundary to include the subject parcel and to approve the airport uses identified in Oregon Revised Statute ORS 836, period 616-2, and Oregon Administrative Rule OAR 660-13-100, and related development on the subject property. The application also includes a proposed comprehensive plan change to amend the Aurora Airport boundary map in the Marion County Comprehensive Plan to include the subject property concurrent with the expansion. The criteria for consideration of this land use permit is found within Marion County Code, Chapter 17.119, Conditional Use, 17.136, Exclusive Farm Use Zone, 17.177, Airport Overlay Zone, Marion County Comprehensive Plan, the goals and the policies, Oregon statewide planning goals, Oregon revised statutes, specifically 215 and 836, Oregon administrative rules, specifically 660-12, the transportation planning rule, and 660-13, the airport planning rule. The subject property is on the west side of Airport Road Northeast. The property is vacant and in neither farm nor forest use. There are no rivers, streams, wetlands, floodplains, or other natural hazards on the parcel or within the immediate vicinity. The property is entirely within the Airport Overlay, or AO, zone. Special Exception Case 1977-37, or SE 7737, approved the property's current configuration, and therefore the property is considered a legal parcel for land use purposes. The subject parcel is bordered to the north, west, and south by parcels in the public or P zone that are part of the Aurora Airport. To the east, on the other side of Airport Road Northeast, are EFU-zoned lands and primarily agricultural use that stretch to the woodlands adjacent to the Pudding River, which is the county line between Marion and Clackamas counties. The Planning Division requested comments from various government agencies. Those comments that were provided can be found in the hearings officer recommendation as well as the case file. The applicant addressed the criteria for a conditional use in the EFU zone, which includes the farm impacts test and the standards within Marion County Code 17.177 for the airport overlay zone. The applicant also addressed the procedures in Marion County Code 17.119 for conditional use permits, specifically to request that the effective date of approval for this land use application be the later date of either the land use, Oregon Department of Aviation, or Oregon Department of Environmental Quality approvals. The applicant addressed relevant policies within the Marion County Comprehensive Plan, Oregon statewide planning goals, and the applicable Oregon revised statutes and Oregon administrative rules. Staff found the proposal compliant with all applicable criteria and prepared a staff report recommending approval. A duly noticed hearing was held before the hearings officer on March 6, 2025. The record was left open until May 1st, 2025, and on May 20th, 2025, the hearings officer issued a recommendation of approval of the conditional use permit to expand the Aurora Airport boundary and to approve airport uses on the property consistent with ORS 836.16.2 and OIR 660-13-100 as a transportation facility specified as a conditional use in the EFU zone under Marion County Code 17.136.50J4. The hearings officer also recommends approval of the comprehensive plan change to amend the Aurora Airport map accordingly to include the subject parcel. The hearings officer recommendation included additional information to the staff recommendation, such as comments received prior to and during the public hearing, as well as all the submissions that were received during the open record period. Those comments and those submissions that were provided can be found in full within the case file and have been posted on the Marion County Public Hearings webpage. Staff agrees with the hearings officer's recommendation and has one proposed amendment. Condition of approval number 20 could be misunderstood as implying that the county is approving a wastewater connection that will itself require land use on other parcels not included in this application. Staff suggests modifying condition 20 to the following condition. Prior to obtaining building permits, the applicant shall receive all necessary septic approvals from Marion County Septic and/or Oregon DEQ. Connection to offsite wastewater systems would require land use approval on other parcels. The subject property will not require additional land use approval for such connection once all approvals from other departments have been received. And I will stand for any questions you may have.
Do you happen to have a copy of that suggested language?
Yes,
that you
I'm sending it to Steve right now.
Okay. Okay. If we get there, we're going to need to read it into the record, so somebody be prepared to help us do that. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any question for John? Thank you.
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Wendy, do you want to come forward? Just go right up here.
I have some show and tell and then pass out first, but I'll be quick.
Okay, no, you're fine. I don't feel like we're going to be here for 2 hours based on the lack of presence today. Oh, you can just walk down if you want, since that's what you were planning, I think. It's more than fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So Wendy Kellington Law Group, representing the applicant TLM Properties. Thank you for having me here today. I've just passed out 4 things. I hate doing that the day of a hearing. That's not how I do things typically, but I got a bunch of stuff last night after 5 and a bunch of stuff the day before, late in the afternoon. And this is just material for the record. One is an email from ODAV saying, confirming that they are going to include this, continue to include the subject property on the master plan they're working on right now as having a designation that it is suitable for airport-related development in private ownership. Number 2 is a letter and an attachment from an associate attorney from our firm explaining that the city of Aurora is extolling the virtues of the incredible economic development opportunities associated with this and other private property at the airport, sufficient to justify jumping through and taking 185 acres of land zoned exclusive farm use and in-farm use in order to get to the subject property, but in this particular case, taking the position that that farmland is not appropriate to be converted to an economic airport use. The inconsistency of that is glaring, and we thought it should be brought to your attention. The third thing is, like Howard Cosell, the rest of the story for a procedures manual that Joseph Schaefer submitted, the purpose for which I'm not sure, but the part that I submitted was designed to show that it's a guidance document, it's not a mandatory document. And the last is a copy of my PowerPoint that I'm going to give you today, just so that I was sure that it was in the record.
Thank you.
So with all of that, So this application, staff and your hearings officer did a really good job. This isn't really a complicated application, but it sure got that way during the hearings process. Did a really good job wading through it all, going through all the standards. But at the end of the day, this isn't an application for a standalone airport. It's not an application that requires or seeks a goal exception. There's no alternatives analysis required. All we're seeking is something that state law allows in the EFU zone as a use that is permitted, it's so long as, and without taking a goal exception, so long as you demonstrate that you won't be providing or permitting service to a larger class of airplane. So in order to do that, we know from the Court of Appeals various cases that the county must expand the airport boundary land use map that is currently in the county's plan. So we are doing that. And then a conditional use permit that will allow only airport uses on the subject property that are allowed expressly by state law, both in administrative rules and state statutes. Not a speck of anything else is to be allowed. ODAV strongly supports the proposal. I just wanted to point that out. It is consistent, the proposal here is consistent with the county's acknowledged comprehensive plan that expressly adopts the 1976 Aurora Airport Master Plan. And you don't have to take my word for it. I provided the quotations from the Court of Appeals that says that, to include that the airport layout plan that the opponents say, oh my gosh, that is not a part of the comprehensive plan of Marion County. And indeed, the Court of Appeals said it was, and so therefore it is. On the airport layout plan, I'm pointing out here that it specifically designates a subject property as an area acceptable for airport-related development under private ownership. That is the designation that the exhibit that I submitted to you today from ODAV says will be carried forward onto the current master plan. The terminal plan says the same thing for the subject property. And then your acknowledged comprehensive plan says that the subject property should be put in something called an airport development zone. And the airport development zone is permitted uses were supposed to include operation of airport conditional uses, aviation-related uses, blah, blah, blah. And in fact, as you probably noticed, your hearings officer's decision points out that in your AO zone that already applies to the subject property, it's considered being in an airport development district. And that airport development district, this airport development zone, was designed to be sort of kept held until airport development occurred by the application of EFU zoning. And this is confirmation of what I just said from your acknowledged comprehensive plan. The 1976 Airport Master Plan says that recommends zoning. The first one's an airport development zone, and we're in an airport development district. I'm not sure those were intended to be something different. And that zone is mostly composed of some sub-zones. Public amusement, which became public, residential agriculture, Farm 20, and or EFU. So I think that point is really important to understand, that your acknowledged comprehensive plan says if the EFU zone is applied, the fact is it was intended that this property, and it's acknowledged as being intended to be in an airport development zone. This was not big news or nuclear war with Aurora and Wilsonville at the time when this was adopted. This was coordinated, as is clear here, with Clackamas County and the mayors of Wilsonville and the city of Aurora. And these are quotes from these documents that are part of your acknowledged comprehensive plan that confirm that that all of the coordination with LCDC, local governments, it all happened back in the day. Your acknowledged comprehensive plan says that Marion County's comprehensive plan provisions here have been accepted by the city of Aurora in their draft land use plan. So that's what your acknowledged plan says about coordination. So understand a land use boundary for an airport is different than the FAA's airport boundary, but in the current airport master plan that's under consideration by ODAV, it's in its final throes. The airport boundary is going to be adjusted to include, the FAA boundary is going to be adjusted to include the subject property as well as a bunch of others so that it can be a part of an aeronautical reserve that enables ODAV to ultimately acquire some or all of it if there's a willing seller situation. So the state regulatory framework, it says in EFU zones that you can have transportation facilities or improvements of the type we're talking about here by doing one of two things. The opponents really focus on the first. You can do it by adopting an exception, but please note the word "or" that the opponents seem to not be able to read, or you follow the farm impacts test for uses that LCDC has allowed, which here is expansions of public use airports that don't permit service to a larger class of airplanes. So nobody needs to have an exception here. The farm impacts test is met. We have significant evidence in the record. A farmer from Monacucu Farms has testified numerous times in favor of the proposal, pointing out that there is nothing about the proposal that will have any impact on his ability to farm, that he's farmed with helicopters and airplanes for a very long time, and there's never been a problem. Our traffic study says at most farm equipment will experience less than a 5-second delay, and as the hearings officer and staff pointed out, that's simply not a significant impact on farm uses. The opponents say that, the administrative rule that allows this use is not a valid exercise of LCDC's authority. It is. I'll just leave it at that. We've talked about, we talked about, you don't need goal exceptions. I don't want to belabor that. Here it's important. The opponents say, oh boy, there's all these Goal 12 problems. Goal 12 says, you really shouldn't have any transportation facilities, major transportation facilities, on land zoned DFU in classes 1 and 2. And here, the state airport planning rule expressly says, look, if you comply with the airport planning rule, you are deemed to comply with Goal 12. There are a lot of reasons why opponents' arguments also are wrong, but that's the main one. The other is that this little 16-acre development is not a major transportation facility. We did do precautionary findings of TPR compliance anyway. We demonstrate there's no significant impact. If you decide to approve the proposal and ask the applicant to draft proposed findings, we will probably build in those precautionary findings of TPR compliance as an alternative. Because I don't think anyone wants to see this case again. I'm pretty sure I don't. I really want it to be done. The opposition claims that there's going to be, 85,000 square feet of offices, and the amended parking tables and the amended site plan that was submitted on March 6th for the public hearing really made crystal clear, and Mr. Fegri, an expert on airport planning, testified that that is absolutely wrong. There's no universe in which that much office space could be allowed or ever would be allowed on the property. Hearings officer did a really good job going through agricultural plan policy compliance. I don't need to belabor that. The subject property is not high-quality agricultural land. Again, Jason Monacucu explained that it has very little to nearly zero value as production agricultural land. It's small, poorly drained, surrounded by airport infrastructure with no irrigation. The oppositional claims are pretty misleading. They say that the Court of Appeals said and did things that they absolutely didn't do. This PowerPoint goes through what some of those things are. One of the things that they say is that the airport boundary is frozen in 1994. Court of Appeals said petitioner, which was Schaefer, appears to be of the view that given the statutory definition of airports, airport boundaries are frozen. That understanding overstates the significance of the statutory definition, and they disagreed with him on that. So we've already resolved that issue contrary to the way petitioners or the opponents would like to. And then they also say, the opponents say, well, you simply can't allow an airport boundary expansion on this property. The court in Luba have said there's no way to get there on this property. And that is not what happened. The Court of Appeals expressly said for this property that the expansion of a public use airport occurs when you, a local government, approve a map showing the airport boundary that includes a larger area than shown on your previously adopted map in your comprehensive plan. So we're doing it the way the court said to do it. There's just there. You know, I want to honor the time, and so I'm not going to go through all of this, but there's just so much misleading stuff. Like the opponents say that, you know, in order to take advantage of the rule that allows the development of this property without a goal exception, you have to quote unquote abut the Aurora Airport. It doesn't say anything about abutting. The Court of Appeals was talking about this very property in the context of being a part of the Aurora Airport land use boundary and said, what all you have to do is have you guys approve a boundary adjustment. That hadn't been sought before. So there's just so many things. This issue is brand new. So for the first time, Schaefer argues on the first page of his August 9, 10, whatever it was, letter that eVTOLs will permit service to a different class of airplane, and that means they must be a larger class of airplane that are not allowed under the rule that says you don't have to take a goal exception so long as you're expanding a public use airport without permitting service to a larger class of airplane. And I just think because this property is so small, I'd like to ask that you guys impose an additional condition of approval that simply says, and maybe Tony will write it for me and then give it to me to give to you, is that the property is limited to providing service to airplanes, to Class 2, Roman 2B airplanes. Because there's no way in the world that this property could provide service to larger ones. That's the class the Court of Appeals thought was dandy. And if you just limit that, then that issue just goes away. I mean, there's arguments, you know, are eVTOLs airplanes? They're aircraft, not airplanes. It could cause our, you know, mind-numbing poor little brains to turn to oatmeal. But I think if we just impose that condition of approval, this issue goes away. These are little birds. Anyway, there's an argument that we are going to allow uses that state law wouldn't allow, or that your conditional use permit rules wouldn't allow. But as you probably noticed, your hearings officer was very, very clear that the uses of the property are expressly limited to airport-related uses as defined in state law, in the administrative rule, and state statute. There will be no others. And state law actually kind of calls those airport uses and calls them out differently than commercial or industrial uses. So in conclusion, this proposal meets all applicable standards, exactly follows what the Court of Appeals told us to do, to add this very land to the land use boundary, to utilize it through the fence statutes. LCDC didn't violate its authority in adopting the rule that allows this approval without taking a goal exception. The proposal won't inspire terrorist attacks, farm uses won't be significantly adversely affected, only minor traffic impacts, consistent with the Marion County Comprehensive Plan, acknowledged 1976 Aurora Master Plan. Your staff and your hearings officer got it right, and we respectfully request that you approve the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Steve?
Can you repeat that condition? I want to make sure I have it all exactly. It's your.
Did you write it out?
I
for
wrote
me?
it down.
You
The
got it.
property is limited to provide Class 2 airplanes. It's pretty
Well,
clear.
providing service to Class Roman 2B.
Yeah, B,
Oh,
the
B.
big
Or-
letter B, and then 2 Roman numeral.
Oh, sorry.
That-
See, I-
That's the way the FAA designates their screen, a B2 and C.
Can you write it down on this piece of paper, please?
I want to make sure we
Come
get
get
this
it.
exactly right.
Yep, agreed. And then before you leave, Wendy, can you unpack LCDC did not violate its authority adopting OAR 660-012-00653N for me?
I'll do my very best.
Okay.
So the opponents take the position that LCDC didn't have the authority to adopt this rule because I think the statute that authorized LCDC to adopt this rule didn't talk about airports. But the answer is, I mean, whatever their argument is about that, and I'm not really sure I fully understand it, LCDC did exactly what the legislature told them to do. Go figure out by rule uses that will be other transportation uses that will be allowed. They don't require an exception so long as they comply with the farm impacts test, right? That 3B, it says, other transportation facilities and uses that are either subject to an exception or that don't need an exception because they, comply with farm impacts test. And so it seems like LCDC is doing everything they were paid to do by the legislature. And actually, in a footnote in the Court of Appeals' most recent decision, I think it's footnote 17, they said, we're not really sure about petitioner's argument that LCDC exceeded its authority, but we'll just note that we don't really think that they would have because they did what the statute requires them to do, and the use is still subject to the farm impacts test. So that's all I know about it. I'm not sure I
No,
understand it.
actually, that's really helpful
Okay.
for me.
Cool.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Wendy at this time?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I gotta go find mine. Got a lot of papers up here. So next on the list is Tony Helbling, but he stepped out. So I'm gonna go down to, is it Fagre? Fagre. I was making it more French than it is, maybe?
Norwegian.
Norwegian. For the record, please introduce yourself and notify your address for the record.
My name is Aaron Fagre, 13200 Fielding Road, Lake Oswego, 97034. I'm an Oregon architect, licensed architect and engineer, and have for 40 years probably devoted half my practice to aviation facilities all over the Northwest, well, Oregon, Washington, all over the Northwest, recently New York State, and including PDX and dozens of rural airports. I've assisted in many of the private developments at Aurora over much of the same period. A number of my detailed notes are in Wendy's record, providing information. I prepared 3 short letters, one on aviation uses, because I saw they were challenging that these uses maybe were more urban and as if it's going to become an office park. And so again, I wanted to clarify, in aviation, everything is about safety, and we have an aircraft there. We have inspectors that have to regularly inspect it. We have to keep records of all those inspections. Many of the aircraft have little black boxes in them, which which then, or even go back to the pilots and clarify, what happened on such and such a flight. So aviation in today's world for safety has a lot of paperwork with it, a lot of inspections, a lot of tracking of information. And so what we call offices, they are offices, but they're all aviation-related offices, and every aviation business that's on that airport, that's on PDX, that's on any airport, is doing the same thing because it's a requirement by FAA, and it's a requirement just to maintain safety of flight. So I just have a letter just clarifying that, given that there were some questions, and I'll leave it with you. I have another letter just talking about this question of whether this is an expansion of a public airport. And the state has rules defining public versus private. There's private use, or private ownership versus public use. So there's just a lot of terminology. The FAA also uses all these terms. So I just run through why, in my opinion, it is an expansion of a public airport. And finally, opponents sometimes bring up the problem that at the airport, most of the wells have arsenic in them. Well, so do, the city of Aurora has arsenic in it too. And it's not a game changer. There's filter systems and so forth that can be put on the water, so there can be safe water for this facility. So I'll just stop there. Most of it is in the record, but I thought, given that some of these questions came up again, that I would submit some new letters on them.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. You can provide your documents to John. All right, Mr. Helbling.
Chair and County Commissioners, Tony Helbling. I'm the president of Aurora Airport Improvement Association. We're a group of businesses, operate aviation-related businesses and aircraft. Our goal is to operate safely, efficiently, and respectfully of our neighbors. We urge you to adopt this zone change. It just makes sense. It's surrounded on three sides by aeronautical uses, and the fourth side is a road named Airport Road, so it just kind of makes sense in our mind. I had a meeting yesterday with Business Oregon and SEDCOR. You know those guys, Eric Anderson and Art Chaput. It was a really good meeting. One of the things we discussed is, and they shared with me, and I'm sure you're aware of it too, is businesses all over the state are thinking about leaving Oregon, or if not leaving. I'm not threatening anything, but it is harder and harder and harder to do business in this state. We as government officials or volunteers, we need to make it easier for business to be in this state, not harder. I had the same discussion with Representative Drazen. This zone change would be great for the airport. It's great for the surrounding communities because it's going to produce jobs. It's going to produce jobs for the county, which that airport is an economic engine for Marion County. So it's an important airport. We want to work with the neighbors to find solutions to their concerns. We've openly tried to and been met with obvious, what you see, suit after suit after suit. While they claim they want the jobs, but I think they want the property more than anything else. On the question of the B2 versus C2, I gave Brandon that, and I also have I found the chart, Brandon, I'll give that to you too, that explains the difference between a C2 aircraft and a B2 aircraft. Aircraft, we'll change it to airplane. So just closing, urge you to adopt, and more than anything, our group wants to stop all this crazy fighting in litigation. It doesn't make sense for anybody. So appreciate your careful thought on this. Do you have any questions for me? Anything? Okay.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, yeah, just a comment.
Okay.
This case.
I think you could just have a seat.
Case before us is not decided on the economic value, obviously, but You said it was an economic engine for Marion County. It's also an economic engine for Clackamas County and Wilsonville.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Not that that has anything to do with what we're doing here today.
Correct. Okay, last for the support is Kevin O'Malley.
For the record, and then just a bullet copy, Commissioners. Kevin Farashi O'Malley. I am the CEO of the Wilsonville Area Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Wilsonville Area Chamber of Commerce, I would urge your approval of this North Marion County vertiport and heliport at the Oregon State Airport. This project aligns directly with the Chamber's vision to create and promote economic prosperity for business and citizens in the South Metro area. And with all due respect and deference that to Commissioner Cameron's comments, for us, economic prosperity is where we live. And while today the legal is well handled and an important part of it, we think that the Aurora State Airport is already an economic driver. It supports thousands of jobs. The addition of the vertiport and heliport position Marion County to participate in the emerging electric and vertical lift aviation industry, a sector projected to create tens of thousands. The investment also tackles a persistent challenge in our region, road congestion, by offering faster, more efficient connections between business hubs. It expands the market access for local companies, attracts investment, and enhances our competitiveness. And the proposal will generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in new annual tax revenue to fund. The hearings officer's recommendations confirm that this project meets all applicable standards. We believe it also meets a very high test, delivering long-term economic opportunity, transportation innovation, and resilience for Marion County and the broader South Metro area. In the recently adopted Senate Resolution 2, the Oregon Senate recognized Oregon State's airport's critical role in the state emergency preparedness network. That was just this last session, highlighting its infrastructure, aviation assets, and ability to respond quickly during disasters. The proposed vertiport and heliport build on that role, enhancing capabilities for emergency medical services, rapid supply delivery, and disaster response coordination, while also driving private investment, job creation, and long-term economic growth. We'd encourage your approval 24-038 as a strategic step to strengthen Marion County's business climate, create good jobs, and expand long-term economic opportunity, while ensuring your residents and communities benefit from new investment and enhanced connectivity without placing new burdens on local taxpayers.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Do you have any questions? No. Mr. Cameron?
No, thank you, Kevin,
Okay.
for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate you.
So for the record, I don't have anybody signed up for opposition, and I also don't have anybody signed up for neutral testimony. So we will go back to the staff's ending summary.
I have nothing to add after that.
Do you want to talk at all about the required or requested suggestions of your conditional use for number 20, and then the added language for conditional use around the property should not be limited to providing service only to airplanes in category B2 or less?
I think staff agrees with both. I'd like to hear from the applicant. I don't know if Wendy had heard the suggested rewording of condition 20. Are you okay with that? And it looks like Brandon and Tony were working on that other condition about the class RB2. So,
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
sorry, it looks like Brandon and Tony were talking about the other condition about class RB2 airplanes,
Okay.
and we can include both of those.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners?
I actually feel like this is a pretty straightforward case. I read the Court of Appeals decision, and they literally told everybody in this case what the law says and what needs to happen for the airport to expand. And to the credit of the applicant, they then did exactly what the Court of Appeals said the law says. So I'm actually also a little bit frustrated that they're still fighting about this, because it's one thing if you don't know what the law is, you're trying to figure it out. in this case, we know exactly what the law is, and the applicant is following the law. So I'm very much in support of approving the hearings officer's decision in this case with the conditions that are necessary.
Okay. Commissioner Cameron?
Madam Chair, was that a motion that I heard?
That's a motion.
You want to make that motion?
I'd be happy to.
So do we need to include the exact language of the two okay. So for number 20, I don't have that language yet. You were going to send it to Steve. I have the one that was produced between Brandon and Tony for the addition. Well, I think he's going to make the motion, so do you want him to?
Yeah, walk me through the.
So you're going to make the motion with the recommended additions of language for conditional use number 20 in the record to change, and then an addition of that in your left hand as in a new conditional use.
Okay.
Wait.
And Brandon's joining us.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you. For the record, Brandon Wright, Planning Director. The applicant has requested the opportunity to write findings for this. And during her presentation, she discussed additional areas that she would address, finding like the traffic impact and other areas that she would.
Okay.
Is the board amenable to including not just adopting the hearings officer decision, but doing a new set of findings similar to that, based on also what was presented at the hearing today?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
I guess I am, except for I don't exactly know what it is that's going to be introduced into the record. And so if it's an additional amount of information outside of what we heard today, when you said the traffic impact, like, is there another conditional use that you believe is going to be added to this?
No, just an analysis of the traffic impact, for instance.
You'll need to share microphones.
There's a rule in Oregon land use that your findings have to respond to issues raised in evidence and testimony, and there was a lot of stuff that came in at the last minute.
Okay.
And so I think especially that last issue that had never been raised before about eVTOLs being a class of airplane that's different, and that means they're bigger. There are no findings about that, for example. Okay. And so we would want to write findings to explain the condition that I suggested be added, and just to go through and make sure that these people, the opponents, didn't raise something that is not thoroughly addressed in the findings. It's not a chance for anybody to submit a stick of new evidence.
Okay.
It's just writing your decision so that hopefully, it doesn't come back.
Okay. I support that. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Okay. Brandon, I don't have that. I don't have to add that into the motion, right? Okay. Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we close the public hearing and approve the hearings officer's decision to grant the conditional use to expand the Aurora Airport with the additional condition that the property shall be limited to providing service to airplanes in the category of capital B Roman numeral 2 or less, and that prior to obtaining building permits, the applicant shall receive all necessary septic approvals from Marion County Septic and/or the Oregon DEQ. In connection to off-site wastewater systems would require land use approval on other parcels. The subject property will not require additional land use approval for such connection once all required approvals from other departments have been received. And that would be the rewording of condition 20.
Good, Steve. I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. I just want to say thanks for everybody's time and the immense amount of work that's been done over the last many, many years in this particular subject. And this isn't relevant to the record, but I just want to say that the amount of frustration that I have when people come from rural areas and start claiming toxins and poisons in waters and farmland, farm use spaces. I happen to own a farm, in an EFU designated area that I have tested every single year. And every single year arsenic shows up, and every single year I flash my well, and I have a proper filtration system on it that mitigates those fears and challenges. So I would just like the city of Aurora specifically to enhance their knowledge and understanding around basic science and stop fear mongering in our community, because I find it to be extremely alarming and disappointing. I'm just not going to sit here and state that because we have farms and we have mechanics around those farms, our world is toxic and terrible. It's just not. So they need to stop doing that. Their attorneys need to stop doing that. And I also want to say a great big thank you to Marion County Public Works, to all the people that make sure that we can live healthy and thriving lives in Marion County with all the farming and industry that we have around here. It's because of you who care about the systems that we thrive in that we can do so with healthy minds and bodies. So thanks for being a part of our team. I know this has been a long time coming, and I hope we don't see you back. No offense. So I'm going to reconvene the Board of Commissioners board meeting. Officially, we have nothing additional on the agenda to consider. Commissioners, do you have anything you would like to add? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
All right.